What's going on, guys? Rabbi Teacher in the house, and I'm here with the ADL full season draft breakdown. I'm here for season 2. As you guys know, I played the ADL 1 week draft tournaments. I won 3 out of the 4 of them, and such. I got invited to take part in their full season. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first Gen 8 draft that I've done. So there's a couple of new Pokemon in here, and then some familiar faces that I've either never drafted, or Pokemon that I just generally like and I think really fit this team. I will be honest, since drafting this team for week 2, I've actually made one change already. One Pokemon that I don't really feel like fits the team as well as I'd like. I am slowly looking at making adjustments to the team. But yeah, for now I'll show you the team pre-draft and then I'll explain to you the replacement as I get to that particular pick. So, I was fortunate enough, having won the Metronome season, to be first pick in this draft. And of course, there's no other first pick Pokemon in draft right now than Dracovish. Now Dracovish doesn't really seem to be that strong on paper. Looking at his base stats, like, it's decent enough. Base 100 defense, base 90 HP in attack, base 75 speed, base 80 in bulk, in Spadef. It's not bad. But the key to this is the combination of Strongjaw, the combination of Fisher's Rend, and the combination of potentially like Choice Band or Choice Scarf. It's just so disgusting how much damage it does. Now, to put it in context for you, Fisher's Rend itself is not a particularly high base power move. It's 85 base power, which doesn't seem like a lot. However, that base power doubles if it moves first, which puts it at 170 base power. Then he times it by 1.5 because it's stab boosted, and then he times it by 1.5 again because it's Strongjaw boosted. You end up with about a 382 base power move, which is absolutely disgusting. That's assuming, of course, it goes first. It's more like 190 base power if it doesn't, but yeah. You can imagine how powerful this thing can get. This thing does get decent coverage moves, does get things like Crunch, does get Iron Head, does get Earthquake, does get Ice Fang. I believe it gets Thunder Fang as well. I am just checking that now on my other screen. It actually doesn't, which is interesting. It does get things like Leech Life, which is cool. Gets, obviously, Liquidation for Stab. Gets a lot of cool moves. But obviously you're going to be using Fisher's Rend most of the time with this thing, because it's incredibly powerful and makes full use of the speed if you can actually run a team with it. So, with that in mind, the next pick is going to be Whimsicott. Whimsicott, more known in doubles. This is actually a VGC pair that kind of took the early stages of the meta by storm. Whimsicott, of course, getting access to Prankster Tailwind, which doubles speed for a few turns. Whimsicott does also get things like U-Turn and Memento, so I can actually pivot out into Dracovish if I wanted to. Things like that. Whimsicott also gets Leech Seed, which is nice. It did obviously used to get Defog. Defog's not a thing in this gen, really. There's not many Defoggers out there. Whimsicott is not one of them that gets it. Whimsicott actually lost access to Defog. But it does still get things like Encore, which is cool, gets Endeavor, does get Sub, does also get some things like Psychic for coverage moves, Shadow Ball, does get Switcheroo, which can be interesting. I could switch a Scarf onto something. Gets Hurricane still for coverage. But yeah, largely speaking, still decent, just not as strong as previous gens, but it's more used as a support utility Pokemon instead of a more offensive power this time. But yeah. Pretty cool Pokemon, definitely good pairs well with Dracovish. Now with these two Pokemon, I actually almost have a perfect Fairy Dragon Steel Core and Fire Water Grass core. With Dracovish being Water Dragon, Whimsicott being Fairy Grass, all I need is a Steel type and a Fire type. So my next pick, I was looking at Steel types. Quite a lot of things were looked at, and I think some were taken already. Things like Lucario was already gone. Various other things like that. Fire type started to go, so I decided to pick up Copperajah. Now, Copperajah is really interesting to me. Really, really powerful Steel type. Got very nice abilities in Sheer Force and Heavy Metal. In terms of what it can use with Heavy Metal, does get Heavy Slam, of course. Does get Heat Crash, which is insanely strong. Copperajah weighs a ton already, so having the double weight on it is insanely damaging. Pop a band on it, pop a life orb on it, it can do so many things. Even like an expert belt would be pretty strong on this thing, because it gets quite a lot of coverage move. Does get things like Earthquake, does get Play Rough, does get Power Whip. It does also get Stone Edge. It does have a relatively signature move called Steel Beam, but Steel Beam is a special move, and Copper Ajar's base special attack is like 80, so it's not really anything compared to that 130 base physical attack. Got really good HP as well at 122. Very slow though, only base 30, but that is nothing to be worried about. The chances are it's going to live a hit. It is pretty weak on the special side, only 69 special defense, but it's workable. It's definitely workable, so hopefully we can make good use of it this season. It's definitely going to put in work in the right situation though. Alright, next up, so I got my Steel type, I still need my Fire type, and I couldn't believe this pick got this far down in a draft. So I grabbed Cinderace next. Cinderace, of course, super fast, super powerful. Got a monstrous attack stat at 116, decent speed stat at 119 speed, which is actually very fast in the tier. Quite a lot of faster Pokemon are not in this game, so having a Pokemon this quick in the tier is always nice. This thing gets a lot of cool moves. Pyro Ball, I think, is the best animation in the game. Super cool move. But the main one I think is really important for Cinderace is Court Change. Now, Court Change is a move that basically takes the entry hazards from both sides of the field and then swaps them. So if my opponent has Sticky Webs and I have Rocks, the Court Change will put the webs on my side of the field and send the rocks to their side of the field. So, very, very interesting. Cinderace pairs up very nicely with an item called Heavy Duty Boots, which is a new thing in this game, which basically makes you immune to entry hazards, which is super nice for Cinderace. Cinderace is actually weak to all of them, so having access to a way to prevent that from causing problems is very nice. Does get decent coverage moves in High Jump Kick, does get U-Turn for pivoting. Just looking to see if it gets anything else. Does get Bulk Up, which is nice. Gets Acrobatics, which is cool. Gets Iron Head. Gets Gunk Shot, which I didn't even know it got. Does get things like Sucker Punch for priority. Gets Zen Headbutt as well. Gets quite a lot of coverage options. Even gets Counter, which is interesting. Let's see. Does it get like any decent ground type moves? No, not really. So it lacks ground type moves, but it gets quite a lot of good physical coverage though. It's also got a lot of special coverage as well, which is kind of strange, but yeah. Very, very powerful on the physical side. Definitely very, very strong. Probably more likely to use it as an offensive pivot. Definitely pivots very nicely into things like Dracovish. Particularly taking those water attacks. Dracovish quad resist water, so fairly nice little pivot to have. Pretty fast, pretty hard hitting, so obviously I've had Infernape in my GPL team, so that's something to bear in mind. It's kind of a similar vein, just less versatile. But yeah, very powerful Pokemon nonetheless. Next up on the team is going to be a mon that I drafted before but I never used, and that's Manamar. Now, Manamar is really cool because it's got a very unusual typing in Psychic and Dark, which does make it quad weak to Bug, which is a problem. But this thing gets Contrary Superpower, which means that instead of losing attack and defense, you actually gain it. And this thing's also very good for Sticky Webs. You'll notice I don't have a web setter on my team, but if someone sets up webs against me, I get +1 speed as soon as I jump in, which could mean I start hitting moves a lot faster, hitting moves a lot sooner, and actually be able to set Manamar up for a pretty dangerous sweep. Manamar is a very scary Pokemon, does get a lot of good moves, so something to bear in mind. It can be a little slow though, so I do need to bear that in mind. But yeah, I think Manamar has a very good place in this team as like a secondary carry. Outside of Dracovish and things like Cinderace. And obviously, it does have wall breaking power depending on what moves I put on it. But yeah, very cool Pokemon. Definitely excited to try and use it on the team. And we'll see what happens. Next up on the team is going to be the first Gigantamax I have. The rules in this league is only C tier Pokemon and below can Gigantamax. So even though Copper Ajar has a Gigantamax form, I can't use it because it's a B tier Pokemon. So, yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Butterfree sitting in C tier is actually very nice because Butterfree gets some very, very cool moves. I'm trying to think what its signature actually does. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm just going to quickly look it up. But it does get things like Hurricane for Airstream, which maxes speed. and various things like that. So definitely got some interesting. Obviously, sleep powder with compound eyes, making it 97% accurate, is always nice. I'm just gonna look it up so I see what the actual Gigantamax Butterfree does. I think it's the one that does multiple stats, right? Yeah, it's Gmax Befuddle, which inflicts poison, paralysis, or sleep. So it's kind of like Tri-Attack in a way, but a more powerful version and a bug-type move, which is super cool. Definitely interesting. Got a lot to offer. If I can get status up, that can be very scary for any opponent I play against. The only thing it doesn't do is burn, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, nonetheless, it's definitely interesting or exciting. Butterfree has some good moves to access to it. Can be a good baton passer. Does of course get Quiver Dance, which is something to bear in mind. It's pretty fast, pretty decent on the special side, I would say. Does also get U-turn, which is kind of interesting. Does get coverage moves and things like Psychic and Giga Drain and Energy Ball. But yeah, largely speaking, does hit pretty hard. Does get some pretty nifty little moves. It does actually get Pollen Puff in this gen, which is interesting, because that's obviously Rabombi's main signature move. But you wouldn't really see that in singles, because it's mostly a doubles move anyway. But yeah. Very solid build. Gives me a decent special attacker, which my team outside of Whimsicott doesn't really have. So, yeah, that's something to bear in mind. So, the next pick on my team is actually going to be replaced. Dusknoir is on my team for week 1, but I have actually dropped it for Stonejourner. This might have been a mistake dropping it, honestly, because Dusknoir is my only Trick Room setter, because I don't think Malamar gets it. So, that was something to bear in mind that I probably overlooked. I've only just realized that. But yeah, Dusknoir was another form of speed control to help out things like my Copper Ajar, but honestly, if I'm bringing Copper Ajar anyway, the chances are it's just going to be a wall breaker, so its main job is just to hit something really hard. But yeah, Dusknoir, generally very bulky, is not actually going to be coming to my first game, so I'm not actually going to use it. But yeah, decent Pokemon, obviously gets Trick Room, does get some decent status moves, gets Will-O-Wisp, gets Thunder Wave and things like that. Does also get Trick as well as Trick Room, so it's an okay Pokemon, but I don't really feel comfortable using Dusknoir on my team. I will need to look for a Ghost type somewhere on this team to try and get a Spin blocker, because Rapid Spin got buffed in this game. So Pokemon like Excadrill can potentially run amok if I'm not careful. But yeah. I didn't really feel comfortable with Dusknoir. I'll talk more about Stonejourner in the week 2 match, I guess. But yeah, I feel like Stonejourner just offers a little bit more to my team. It obviously gives me a ground typing, which I didn't have already. Which gives me an electric immunity, which is nice, because I, again, didn't have one of those. But yeah, I think Stonejourner is actually surprisingly good. I think it's got a lot to offer. But yeah, Dusknoir, not a bad Pokemon, just not quite for me. Oh wait, I actually just realized Stonejourner is a rock type, so I've messed up. Yeah, whatever. Forget what I just said. Don't worry about it. I'll find a ground type somewhere else. But yeah, either way, next up, coming into my next pick is gonna be Pikachu, secondary Gigantamax. Kind of an interesting Gigantamax in a way. But yeah, it's basically this thing's job is to speed control, as again, I need Dracovish to be in first for Fisher's Friend, so that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, pretty much the situation for me is if I can get some paralysis off, that will allow me to set up Dracovish to sweep. That's pretty much the main goal here. Dracovish is going to be my main sweeper, with other things like Malamar, Cinderace, and Cobrajar potentially to carry behind them. But yeah, Pikachu's main job, just to paralyze things. That's basically all it's there for. But it's a pretty cool Gigantamax now. It does get some cool moves. Does still get Surf in this game, so it does have some options, but it's not the best. Obviously, it's just a filler Pokemon, really. Next up, I couldn't get Rabombi because King Farfetch sniped it from me, so I picked up Cutiefly. Web setter, basically. Pretty much it. That's all Cutiefly is on this team to do, is set up webs. Because I don't believe Butterfree gets them. I am just going to check the Butterfree didn't get it. I don't think that was one of the buffs it got. No, I didn't. So, Cutiefly is a web setter, of course. It does help if I can court change them onto my side of the field for Malamar again. Pretty much, yeah. Webs, pretty much all Cutiefly is there for. But yeah, pretty decent Pokemon, does get some okay coverage moves, but it's kind of too frail to live any hit in this league, so we'll see what happens there. But last but by no means least is going to be Hakamato. I wanted a fighting type. I do like fighting types on my team. I didn't really have the points left to spend on a higher tier Pokemon, so I decided to grab Hakamato. Obviously, it's a secondary dragon type, quite weak to fairy, being dragon fighting, but it's basically Kommo-o, but lacking the signature move and lacking special type coverage. It's a decent physical sweeper, can take advantage of a Violite, does have the ability Bulletproof, which means ball and bomb moves like Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Focus Blast. These kind of moves that they sometimes call ballistic moves, don't work on Kommo-o. They're basically immune, so that's cool. It can definitely force my opponent into making some different moves than they otherwise would. But yeah, either way, that's basically going to be the team. That's what we have. I have traded Dusknoir for Stonejourner. I'm going to need to make one more change somewhere. If you can see a spot that you would like to see changed, or a different Pokemon that you think doesn't fit on the team, let me know. I am going to try and search for a ground type that I actually like. I was looking at Sandaconda before, but Sandaconda's a B tier Pokemon, so I'd have to lose like Whimsicott or Copperajah, and I don't really fancy doing either of those. But yeah, nonetheless, that's gonna be the team. My week 1 match is gonna be against Exostomp. I'm actually recording this at the time that we were due to be playing, but Exo's been having issues logging into Showdown. The servers have been a little bit buggy. But yeah, that match will be coming soon, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. But either way, I'm gonna get on out of here, so thank you for watching. My name is Rabombi Teacher. I'm your coach of the Royal of Rabombis. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.